Itachi Uchiha is one of the most popular characters in Naruto and has one of the darker backstories in the series. A boy who started out as the hope and future of the Uchiha clan was pushed into the corner by a village elder to eventually massacre the very same clan that held such high hopes for him. However, as we all know, Itachi would continue to serve the village even at the cost of those ignorant to what he'd done, why he did what he did, and how he sacrificed so much for the village. Itachi wasn't a shinobi who wanted to have flowers given to him, medals or ceremonies or anything like that. Instead, he did what he did for the future of the village and its prosperity, regardless as to how much personal pain and anguish it did to him or how much it tarnished the legacy of a boy who some in the village at one point believed he could become a Hokage. However, while many point to the Uchiha Massacre as a moment in history where Itachi was set on the course that fate had set out for him, the truth is that not only is this wrong, but it's actually something that happened many years before that moment ever took place, where Itachi began walking down the path to becoming the character who we know and feel so strongly about today. Whether those feelings are love or hate, that's entirely up to you, but that's irrelevant. But the true moment where Itachi began to be shaped is one that hasn't been fully explored in detail yet, which is why in today's video, we're going to be looking at the moment where Itachi's destiny was decided in the Naruto franchise. The information is going to come to us mainly from the Naruto light novel Itachi Shinden Daylight, which is the first of two Itachi light novels that are set mostly before the events of Naruto Chapter 1 and shed light on more of the upbringing of Itachi and the politics of Konoha during Hiruzen's time as Hokage that ultimately led to the Uchiha Massacre. The information we're going to look at is something that Naruto's manga briefly alluded to when it comes to Itachi, referencing this moment but never going fully in detail, because when Obito told this story to Sasuke, Obito only had the small bits of information that Itachi had told to him himself. But what we're going to look at is the first-hand accounts from Itachi and how it shaped him into the man that we know as Itachi Uchiha and cemented his destiny. We all know that when Itachi was a young child, only 4 years old, Fugaku had taken Itachi to the battlefield during the ending of the Third Great Ninja War to both make Itachi see firsthand what life as a shinobi was actually like, as well as to attempt to put Itachi in a situation where his Sharingan would awaken, so Fugaku could increase the intensity of the training of a young Itachi. However, it's after Itachi says he feels a, quote, wild wave of power flowing into his retinas, end quote, and Itachi suppresses the power that he feels flowing into his eyes out of the fear that's filling his body. Itachi takes a look around the battlefield and hits a revelation of what life will be like for him if he ever becomes the ninja his father wants him to be, but also at the age of 4 begins coming up with a plan to prevent the carnage and bloodshed that he saw before him at any cost moving forward. Though due to being a child, his pacifist vision for the future is a flawed one due to seeing the situation with the eyes of a frightened child who is naive to the greater workings of the world. The novel says that Itachi, quote, stared hard at the sight before him. This hell might have been the world which he was forced to live, but he had no intention of sitting back and simply accepting it. I would change it, he thought. It was a mistake to try and resolve things by fighting. For whatever reason, this world had to change. This belief became the foundation of the man known as Itachi Uchiha. Itachi never forgot that day, end quote. What those quotes should show you is that Itachi's trauma by being sent to the battlefield ran deeper than what we originally showed in the anime, even with the extended scenes that the anime added with the anime adaptation of this novel. But instead, there were moments that were cut out to show just what Itachi truly was, a 4-year-old child scared on the battlefield who, upon seeing all the shinobi dead, blood leaking out their bodies and all the chaos that came from the fighting all around him, Itachi was trying not to shed tears in front of his father, the very same father he looked up to, but the amount of blood he saw being spilled, the amount of men he saw crying out in pain, it made Itachi break down into a fit of tears right there in the middle of the battlefield in front of his father. The sight of the men begging for their lives as the blood ran out their arteries, or the ones who couldn't speak because they had their throats slashed, Itachi saw the light fading from their eyes and the anguish wash over their faces. It made Itachi see the price of war between ninja villages had a very human cost to it that wasn't actually worth it, because regardless of the headbands that people wore with the village symbol on the metal forehead protector, the dead and the dying were going to a place where there was no loyalty to a village. There was only the afterlife that waited for those who were taking their last breaths, which is what led to a 4-year-old Itachi with tears in his eyes asking and begging his father to explain to him why he brought him here to the battlefield of all places, the literal last place that a child Itachi's age should ever be at. However, this moment of trauma shaped Itachi's whole path as a ninja going forward. When faced with fighting those who had their own ideals and beliefs, despite them being different than his own, Itachi often chose the path of least resistance to end fights. If they turned into physical, the goal was to strike with such overwhelming force and speed that the enemy wouldn't suffer for too long, and where possible, he would use genjutsu to take his enemies out without lifting a finger. Though there were times where a younger Itachi, in an effort to push his limits, would toy around with those who he fought, but the over-reliance on using genjutsu to end fights quickly would eventually evolve into Itachi unlocking Tsukiyomi with his Mangekyo in order to do so, even though it would be days on end for those caught inside the genjutsu. When used to its full power, Tsukiyomi can be casted and over in the real world in literally a confirmed 1/100th, a 1/1000th, a 1/1,000,000th of a second, literally written down in the novel for how fast this takes, which is basically a picosecond. Itachi knew that being born as an Uchiha, he possessed abilities that went beyond that of most others. What would be considered genius level talent in other clans, more often than not, was only being considered average for an Uchiha. Itachi understood the advantages that he possessed over those who he fought, which is why before joining the Akatsuki, the goal was always to eliminate the target as quickly as possible, because the sooner that the fighting was over, Itachi in his mind believed that the faster the resolution could be reached if he wasn't forced to kill those he was engaged in battle with, because in Itachi's mind, those who are the strongest are able to dictate the terms of the conversation, while in Akatsuki, there was an appearance to keep up. The blood-hungry clan killer who butchered his entire clan seemingly to test out his natural abilities, or that he'd gone crazy as some people believed, Itachi had to feed into that persona. However, on the inside, that was a man who still remembered what he saw on the battlefield at the age of 4, and he wanted desperately to make a reality where this didn't have to come to pass, which is why that naive line of thinking could be exploited by someone like Danzo years later on in the timeline, where Danzo correctly pointed out an Uchiha coup d'etat would result in bloodshed for the village, his brother Sasuke being radicalized, and would leave the village open for an invasion from another village, likely from the Cloud Village, which would in turn cause an entire ninja war to happen, something that Itachi, more than once in the 2 Itachi novels, states via internal monologues is something that he wishes to prevent, another war between nations, even a war between the Uchiha and the Leaf Village. However, as we all know, even for as brilliant as Itachi was, things didn't go exactly as he planned, but it does make you wonder as you watch some of the filler scenes from the Itachi Shinden anime adaptation, which I don't recommend watching because of how inaccurate they are. You have scenes like when Sasuke meets Orochimaru, and while pondering what the meaning of life and death are, he's leaping off the cliff and saving himself at the last second. It makes you wonder how different Itachi would have been if he wasn't traumatized at the age of 4. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. If you want to check out more Naruto lore videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and check out the other Naruto videos you see on the screen right now.